I'm live. Hi, everyone. Saturday morning here. Um, I'm just getting dressed. These are some of my earrings that I make, just so you know. I'm just going to kind of put that out there. You can get that on coffee.com. I will put the link in the show notes and in the thing. Anyway, good morning. It is finally fall, I think, because it's really, really cold out there. So, ADHD and productivity. So, yeah, I've obviously talked about my ADHD, and lately I have been I have a bug up my butt, to put it bluntly. It feels like my Ritalin is finally kicking in, and while I feel a little like jittery, I've been back on my ADHD medication since the beginning of this year, about March thereabouts. And I had been off for about 2 years during the pandemic because when I was running around trying to find a new provider, no one would give it to me. I live in Ohio. They're not necessarily particularly restrictive about stimulant medication, but for some reason, when I wanted to change providers to get someone who I felt was more responsive, it was really a pain in the butt to do that, actually. Ironically, one of the first providers that I went to was a nurse practitioner, and she was the one who diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder, which I've talked about maybe a little bit before. And I won't go into in this video because that's a whole nother animal, and that's so much stigma around that. But I have quiet type, by the way. Anyway, she wouldn't she basically, her philosophy, and this is why it's really key when you're looking for a new provider to really get down into what their philosophy is. And it's going to be hit or miss. You're going to be spending money on appointments and gas money looking around for a provider that actually holds a productive philosophy regarding ADHD. And hers was that I was depressed. And I've heard this from other people, that I was depressed, and that's why I didn't have focus and attention. And actually, the reverse is true. It's because I'm depressed because I can't focus. Okay. So, 2 years I was without medication. I probably had undiagnosed COVID at one point because I became a zombie just due to stress and due to some other stuff. I was like, I couldn't read websites. I just really was having a really, really hard time focusing, struggling to literally, I could not process information that I was seeing, that I was hearing, and I still have that problem because I have ADHD. But it was particularly bad during the pandemic years, 2020 and 2021, especially 2021. It was really bad, and I I just couldn't function. I literally and I was screaming, literally screaming for help at times. I was just like, please help me. Please help me. Anybody who would listen to, I'd be like, I cannot process this information. It's really difficult for me. I just now got for work of the visual voicemail for our agency. We changed over phone services, and before we had a website you could go and you could actually click on the various voicemails that you would get during the day. Loved it. I mean, there was some little things I didn't like, but it was nice because I could visually see it. We changed our phone system and we went back to the like you had to go onto the phone and listen to it. That was a disaster. I mean, fortunately I don't get an incredibly large amount. Sorry, I heard something. Incredibly. Oh, okay. Yeah, neighbors are shooting guns this morning. Um, and unfortunately, I don't always get an incredibly large amount of voicemails, but it was still a struggle because for me, anything that's out of sight is out of mind. That's why my space is so cluttered because I want to have everything out where I can see it. I actually have to see something or I just completely forget or I have to make a list. and I don't always succeed in that task. So I finally, because I had to work with the university's help desk to try and get this all set up. Anyway, long story short, I'm back in the game with regards to getting this, like being able to see my voicemails. And plus, this system allows me to edit the phone number that comes up in that voicemail to put a message in there as about specifically what that voicemail is, who it's from, and what was it about. So I can go back to that voicemail and listen to it as I need to. It is a game changer for me. And I had to fight at work to be able to get that. I talked to my supervisor. I said, I really, really need this. Our IT people aren't necessarily very responsive. They've got a lot of other stuff on their plate, so I get it. But I kind of got this pushback that basically said, well, that's not going to happen. We were promised that we were going to be able to have this visual voicemail, but when we change systems, they're like, yeah, that's too complicated. We can't do that. But it isn't really that complicated. It was just they didn't want to deal with it, which sets me up. I mean, this is the whole thing. Like, so what I said in my original subject of this presentation that I'm doing is that people that have ADHD are not stupid. People that have ADHD don't know how to organize. We do. At least I can. I know how to organize. It may take me a little bit longer to be able to organize my stuff. It may take a lot of trial and error, but I'm always very focused on that. It's always a very high priority. It's not that I don't even care. That's another thing that I hear a lot is that, oh, well, you don't care if your space is messy. I do care that my space is messy. I hate the way my room looks right now. I absolutely hate it. So, a lot of these judgments that come from, and a lot of these assumptions and stereotypes about people with ADHD are really, they need to be changed. I'm sorry. And that's one of the reasons why I talk so much about my ADHD is because people are just flat out wrong. I'm sorry. I have lived with an awareness that I have ADHD since I was 10 years old. As I said, I was diagnosed by 1980 with ADHD and put on medication. So my entire life, I went to one of the first conferences for ADHD. It was I want to say it was in Valparaiso, Indiana, but I don't know if it was Valparaiso, but it was in Indiana, and all the big Holloway, uh, uh, my brain just doesn't remember names. Yeah, Ned Hollow, I think it was Ted Holloway. Anyway, all the big ADHD people were there, and so I've always been very aware that I have this deficit, and it's a struggle, but I learn to live with it. And again, this is another stereotype is that number one, that you don't care. I do care, and that you don't like I'm having a brain fart right now. But these stereotypes that, you know, you're not working hard enough. You don't know how hard I work every day to stay on task, to figure things out. I have to go through, when I put a reminder in my phone, I have to put up to 5 notification bells in my cell phone just to remind me. And that might not even work. I'm always looking for ways to be more productive, always ways to be more organized and to be able to get me on track. And there's tons of tools out there right now. And I was really struggling, going, I need help, I need help, I need help. And nobody's helping me. Like literally, they're like, I don't know what to do for you. And so I don't know what kind of got my bug under my butt. I am trying to figure out how to do some remote work to fit around my current full-time on-site schedule. Need a little bit of extra money. And I'm trying to find some other avenues where I can branch out and kind of see what's going on, because I right now I have a 68-mile round trip commute every day, and I take care of a cat colony, and it's just a little bit too much. And not that I want to quit my current job. I've been there for almost 20 years. I'll be 20 of my 20-year anniversary next year in spring. It's just that I really, I just need something different. I haven't really advocated for myself for career um, advancement. And that's because of my ADHD and my anxiety. And so I'm working really hard on that. And somehow over the past few weeks, I think actually it started when I found out that I could get on T-Mobile internet and get a faster connection. That was a game changer. We actually now have a reasonable internet connection. I have higher speed upload and download speeds, which before we were paying $85 for a 5 megabyte download speed and barely a 2 up. That literally limited what my world was like and what I could do with my career. I felt very trapped. And that structure, that foundational structure and infrastructure limit like how our society has set up so much failure for so many people. Unless you have a lot of money and you can pay to play and you can get the best meds, the best doctors, the best technology, the best resources, the best, setup, you're out. And society really isn't focused on really helping you. You're expected to do it yourself. You're expected to pull yourself up by your bootstrap, figure out how to get the money, figure out how to figure all this stuff out. If you have a cognitive deficit, you're expected to just sink or swim. Um, and at my and it's very frustrating to live in a society like that. I mean, you may live in a place where you really have a lot of support. Other people don't. There's a lot of criteria that may get you identified as like, hey, wow, yes, you do need help. Here, let's help you. But in American society, in the United States, the culture is very not that. We all know that, right? We're told pick yourself up by your bootstraps, just push on through, suck it up, mask, fake it till you make it kind of stuff. And those are really unhelpful messages. Anytime that you look for social support, you're called a socialist or a communist. And a lot of times people do need more help. You know, People make assumptions about, oh, well, you came from a privileged background, therefore you don't need help. Or, people that may be identified as being quote unquote vulnerable population may get a larger amount of help, but then yet sometimes that help is really really hampering them as well. I mean, I know a few people who are on disability and they are not allowed to save any money. And so they have a mental health issue. They're on disability because they can't work in a 9 to 5 job. They do try to make a little bit of money, but like a lot of these systems are really they're just hampering you. There's so many limits, there's so many hoops you've got to jump through in order to be able to access this stuff, instead of it just being freely given without any strings attached, because we're so like penalizing, like, you're going to steal this, do you earn it, did you deserve it? And it's like, I would say, even though I'm a very cynical and sometimes I hate people like you would not believe, I try to say, hey, maybe if you gave them that bridge, that hand up, they could help. Like if you just gave them, maybe $500 or more a month, they could make ends meet, be able to feel better about their lives, be able to pay bills, be able to get medication, maybe be able to get some equipment that would help them. But instead, we just say, well, you got to scrounge, you got to scramble, you got to go do a GoFundMe. Well, GoFundMe's are not a way to function in this world. Unless you have 1 million followers and somehow you get to have a viral feed, good luck. People are just like, I mean, it's unfair to ask people who have health issues, mental health issues, disasters, whatever, to go out and market themselves. That's like it's like the whole health insurance system now. They think that it's beneficial, and it's one piece that, okay, that's progress, but it's not. Where, well, here we'll give you what your bill is going to be before your procedure. Well, that's nice. I think. I mean, sure, we all want to know what our medical bills are going to be like before we have to pay them. So we're not getting any surprise bills, but you're not addressing the issue of why in the hell is it so expensive in the first place? And you're also putting a lot of stress on somebody. If somebody needs a medical procedure, they need a medical procedure. You know, it's not like, oh, I can't afford that $10,000 medical procedure, so I'll just do without. Like, I mean, that's what you're putting out there. Like, you're just saying, well, you got to figure out how to pay that. Like, great. Now I've got more stress on me to be able to pay an exorbitant medical bill that I can't afford. You know, like, how is that going to make people feel better? Like, how is that going to help them get well, feel good about themselves, be able to be productive members of society again? You're not. You're basically just dumping a bunch of stuff on them and they're drowning again. I mean, this is how our society is run. Okay. And so for me, so I've been kind of getting excited, which is very terrifying to me. And I had a little bit of a setback. So I'm trying to go and try and find this remote work. And I have a faster internet speed. Yay. I'm thinking, wow, like all of a sudden I felt possibility, which is such a morale booster. It's like, okay, wow, I can actually now look for remote work. Whereas before, there was no way that I was going to be able to do any kind of work with a 5 megabyte download speed. And because I had rural internet, right? Which is a societal problem. I mean, it has been addressed in our society, but it's not really being addressed. But I lucked out and I was able to get a T-Mobile home internet system, which is like a fraction of the cost of what I was paying for really, really poopy service. And I'm getting very reasonable, better speed. So again, that morale of like, oh, wow, maybe things are going to change and I can actually do something that will fit into my world. I'm 54, so I have age discrimination in work as a barrier. I have my mental health issues, my ADHD, et cetera, and my anxiety as a thing. I've got a lot of stuff on my plate, which really makes it very challenging for me to like work in a traditional, like, even if I wanted to work like seasonal work around the holidays, that isn't going to be functional for me. I don't want to do a lot of driving to another job to fit in, because that I already spend a lot of time driving. I spend a lot of time things. So I want to kind of do something from home where it's a lot easier for me. But then that sets up a whole bunch of other things. So I just joined AARP. Yay. This is actually the second time I've joined it. A few years ago I did. We got some, I think when I turned 50 or something. Anyway, I joined AARP and I got hooked into a course on how to do remote work. And so basically, it's a course, you get a certification at the end saying you completed this. And basically, it's just like it's a teaching course that teaches you how to be successful in doing a home remote work job. Okay, like productivity, how to set up your work environment, other issues. And so I've been taking that, and it's making me kind of reevaluate. Like, I know that I have issues around my work environment. I don't have a lot of privilege area. Like, I don't have a home office. I'm sitting in my bedroom We don't really have a lot. We have got a big space, but it's not finished. So I can't really go down and kind of niche out a little, space for me. So this is what it is, where I can actually have some privacy. Anyway, so that's been really useful. But one thing that I've always fought with my current job is that I've always had a love-hate relationship with technology, and my job has changed to be more computer oriented, which is fine but it's like one of these things, like my mother also had ADHD, and she was very bad at managing bills and junk mail. And she spent probably thousands of dollars with a personal home organizer that would come to her house and organize stuff. And she actually paid a couple of times for this woman to come and help me. And while the woman was nice, she was really bad. Like, she really wasn't very helpful. She was basically taking a system that either she designed or was the system that she was taught, like, this is what you should do, and just applied it without looking and saying, what do you need? You know, is this system really going to work for you? There isn't a one size fits all system to be organized, productive, etc. Everybody is different. Okay. What may work for someone who is neurotypical will work beautifully. And a lot of stuff is designed for those neurotypical people. You know, they're not designed with people that have mental health issues, cognitive issues, ADHD, those kinds of stuff. Anxiety, like I would always get very anxious. I still do in paying bills. I have an issue around that. So it's like I have to trick myself into completing tasks, into, okay, I feel good today. I can tackle this because I have such anxiety about completing tasks. And people that are neurotypical that have never really had these issues, they don't really understand. And I get a lot of shame for that because they're like, well, just suck it up. Like, just do it. Like, I don't understand why this is so hard for you. Um, and so the issue of whether or not you're doing an analog system or an electronic system, I have to do a hybrid. I just have to. There's just no way I can just do one or the other. I have a bullet journal. You can look that up. That actually is really good. I don't use it as well as I should. I've had ups and downs with that. And again, this is because of my cognitive stuff. And it's really nice to be able to write things down. I still do handwriting, notes, that kind of stuff, because I just like the feel of paper. I really do. I like being able to actually hold something in my hand. I still like to read books by hand, even though I still have Kindle books. So I'm really hybrid, and it kind of makes it a little bit, pardon the term, schizophrenic at times, because you're like, because I'm like, again, like I said, I'm very out of sight, out of mind. So sorting and organizing all my stuff on my computer is great, but it can get a little cluttered, you know, like organizing emails. Like I don't save them as an email. I print them out as a PDF because that way that format will be readable 20 years from now, hopefully. Um, but like the email thing, I've lost emails because I've lost the email system and I can't open them anymore. So print out your emails that you want to keep and put them in a folder, like letters and emails to friends and stuff like that. Print them out as PDFs. That's a big tip that I have. And at work, ironically, because it's a mental health agency, you would think that they would be more, address. And it's improved somewhat. We do have a training committee. And one of the things that I have been really, really pushing for a really long time is, and they still haven't done it, is doing productivity training and how to use tools to help you become more productive. Because the feedback I get a lot of the times, because my supervisor is very neurotypical. Like She's very organized, very, on top of stuff. And her office is immaculate, It's like she's very, mine isn't. And I'm not the worst person. There's been people at our agency where it's like, I mean, they're no longer working there, not because they got fired, but they retired, but like they're older. I mean, it's scary. I mean, they just had piles of paper. I mean, they looked like hoarders. I mean, it was really bad. I'm like, I'm not that bad. Like, I'm not a hoarder. I mean, I'm just like, they just were old and they did things their way and they just, and that's we've kind of got a mix in our agency. We've got older people that are like very analog. They're very like paper based. We have people that are the millennials and they're like, younger I don't even know the generations, but anyway, they're more comfortable with this. They may not read emails, which is a problem in our agency because so much stuff requires you to read an email. We are struggling through the post-pandemic remote hybrid work environment. They were trying to get everybody on site at least 4 days a week. They pushed that back to 3 days a week because they were, I guess, getting so much pushback. Like there were staff in our agency that would barely be in. Like once we were able to go and do remote work and do telehealth, people wouldn't even show up. And that's a problem with medical and mental health stuff because you have certain specific requirements. There was, we've got emergency rules because of the pandemic that had allowed some leeway and some flexibility, but those are all going away because the pandemic is winding down and we've got to like get to some level of new normalcy, right? Which is another issue. And so it's a struggle. And so it's like, how do I mean, my job is what we do. Like I was able to do verbal authorizations, but that's going to go away. So using technology or getting someone in physically, and there's people who really like to be in person. There's people who don't. I'm hybrid. I like to do things in person. I think it's important to be able to have a balance. I don't think it's healthy to be one or the other. I think you need to be able to be flexible, and that's hard for people. And I appreciate that. But it feels really frustrating because I know that like we're a nonprofit and that we don't have a lot of money to devote towards these productivity tools. But I feel like it's a critical piece that needs to happen. And a lot of the feedback I get back is that, well, I can't handle this. So yeah, we're not going to do it. And I'm like, I think this would really help us if we did this. I feel like maybe I should be on the training committee to kind of like help organize this because it's never anything that is really ever focused on. And I think that like, for example, my workflow at work is that I receive requests, I review the releases. And before I used to attach the actual print release that would come via mail or fax primarily, open them up, review them, log them, put a paper cover sheet on them that would have a form that told the clinician to review the release, check off what they want, sign off on it, and then hand it back to me. Well, when the pandemic happened, we all had to do electronic. So I did everything via email. I took that form, slapped it sloppily into an email as a template, and would, get the requests somehow scanned in, and I would send them to the clinician so they would be able to open their email, read the attachments, and then just in the email hit a reply and tell me what they want me to send, and then I would do the rest. I tried, because we get so much email, I tried doing this as a task, and there were certain clinicians that literally were having meltdowns. Like they were like, I can't open this. I can't see it. I'm not there. I don't know what. And I'm like, why is this so hard? Like, I don't understand. There's people who had not the greatest technology at home. It was just very frustrating because, you don't take into account that people's level of sophistication. And so again, it comes back to give them the ability to be able to know how to do stuff instead of just letting them sink or swim. And it just, like, I remember the first few days of the pandemic, I was all gung ho. I was like, okay, everybody, we're all at home, what do we need? What do we need to be productive? And I was told to like back it off because everyone's like stressed off. And I'm like, but I'm here to be your support, like, how can I help you? And it just, and I got complimented by the director that like I was very proactive in helping. But I myself really started to struggle, like, especially over the last several months. Um, with following up with email. I would look and my brain just was not functioning. So I appreciate it. Like, I love that I know that technology can be a really great tool to help people, but we're not really given the tools. We're just said they're out there, figure it out. And that brings me up to the other issue is getting even started. So I know in the back of my head, I'm like, someone must have invented something. There must be a way. And YouTube used to be somewhat helpful, but for some reason, I've noticed that a lot of YouTube instruction tutorials on using like Microsoft Office and other stuff like that, they're poorly done. They're annoying. It depends on the teaching style, what the focus is. So, for instance, so much of our society and a lot of these tools are based for project management and sales and all this other kind of stuff. And that's not my job, and I'm not in a traditional hospital environment. So I'm not working like primarily with hospital tools. We're a mental health agency that's kind of this kind of like, we're on our own. We're getting a new electronic health record, but I'm not involved in the system as well as I should be. So, trying to communicate and be on top of stuff, my brain just burned out. I was like, and I had issues with following back up with emails. I realized the system is becoming unwieldy and it's unusable. And so I'm going to try and go back but I'm trying to like understand those tools and say, are there better tools? We're limited also by the fact that by HIPAA, that we're only allowed to use certain tools authorized we can't just bring in a random third party productivity tool because it may violate our HIPAA requirements. So it's tricky, and I don't think that people who are neurotypical really understand like how challenging this can be. So today I was inspired and I was like, okay, let me, of course I didn't do this 2 years ago because again, like it just was like, there was no support. It was just like, okay, sink or swim. And I wanted to know how to do certain things, but I didn't know where to look. I didn't know what questions to ask. How would I word this to find the information I need? And I was like, please help me. And nobody could help me. And so today, strangely enough, I was like, during this this learning educational website that I'm looking at right now, it was talking about productivity tools and it mentioned a few, and I started to go, okay, all right, yeah, I can see how I need this app. So I was starting to add on all these extensions to my Chromebook and like really kind of thinking like, okay, wow, like there's applications now for, which is really cool, and I'm trying to remember what it's called. I can go up here, hold on. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Anyway, there's a Reader View. It's an app, an extension that you can install on your Chrome browser, and you can go. If you go to websites, how they're really, really cluttered with a lot of ads and attention and da 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 da. Hyperlinks. I mean, I did my senior thesis on the burgeoning internet, and it was just like, anyway. But I mean, the whole issue of like hyperlinks. Oh, that was actually in library science, like hyperlinks, and like this will be really great and stuff. But again, for somebody who has ADHD, it's kind of like you press on the hyperlink and it takes you 20 years later and you're like, whoa, where was I? Like, what was I originally looking for? Um, so ReaderView is an app extension that you can go onto these sites, and if you have to read an article, you can actually select the text or just click the icon, the reader view icon, and it will basically simplify. And so you're just reading the text. You're not getting all the other busy stuff on the side, which is great. And I'm like, why didn't I know about this before? Because nobody tells me this stuff. Like, I don't know to go out, and people are like, oh, well, you should just go out and look. I'm like, but I didn't know that existed. And it's like, this is what's so aggravating about Google and about a lot of these search engines. They don't necessarily give you things that you probably need. They give you things that you don't know. And so I always share stuff that I find to be productive and useful. And I don't always know. I mean, and I will share them across platforms. So it's not necessarily I'm going to, hey, wow, did you know this? To an ADHD focus group or a productivity group. They might already know those things. I just do it for everybody. So I'm downloading some extensions and I'm trying to figure out, and my brain's going click, 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 and I'm like, oh, and I'm looking at my desk again for the 9 millionth time, looking at that, going, oh, how can I be more productive? And meantime, I'm like doing this wasteful YouTube video. But yeah, it's just that I wish people who are neurotypical would understand. Like, I understand that people who may be older may not want to get involved in new technology. I don't really like change much anymore. I'm kind of like that slow and steady, like, okay, this is working for me. But it would be nice if we did have more support when things do change. Because I think that there are good positive changes. One thing, there's a lot of things that are negative. So, like years ago, Google used to have, I think they called it Google Desktop, and it was a dashboard. And it was so great. And you basically would go there, you would have all your links, your RSS feeds for your news and your emails and the weather, and it would just be right there. They took it away years ago. And I was so mad because it was such a useful tool for me because I could look at everything right there. And they took it away. And it's like, why are you taking this away? Like, and it's hard to find I tried finding other similar sites that would aggregate all of your daily stuff. And that was something years ago that they promised that the internet would be able to do, that you would be able to get all your news aggregated and put into things and you could get them daily and da 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 da. Now it's just like chaos. Like, you get notifications. I just got a new phone and all the notifications are set for on. And so you're spending weeks trying to go, I don't need that notification. I don't need to, and I guess they do it just so you know that it's there, but it is hard. Like, and sometimes I'll go, do you want the notification? Like, I don't know if I want the notifications on or not. And, I don't need sports news notifications, but I might want to have breaking news notifications. Weather notifications are very useful. Email notifications can be useful. But if you have a very cluttered email and you're getting a lot of spam, then that's not so useful. And so it's very hard to be very specific because the way these people have organized and arranged and designed things, they're not necessarily designed with people who have, like, I do not like Microsoft. I'm not an Apple person. I don't use Mac products or anything like that. I used to way back when I was in college, but I don't anymore. I did like the way that they designed things, and I think there was a lot more flexibility. Now there's not as much flexibility in terms of development, but you had a lot more creative flexibility. And I think the tools were more for creative types that were more a little bit, outside of the box. Microsoft Office is very corporate, very, very bland. You can't do a lot of alterations or tweak things to kind of make them a little bit stand out a little bit more. And again, like I'm a visual person, so Microsoft Office products are not useful for me. And I'm struggling, like even just like the notifications, I'm trying to figure out how to use the tasks and the to-do list within Microsoft Office, and I can't figure it out. Like there's no real tutorial. I have to go on YouTube and figure it out, and it's very hard the way that they present any kind of tutorial on how to use these products. And I even just try to go, I don't like the notification bell, and I can't change the notification bell. So a lot of times you can tweak it to where you're like, oh, I like this sound over this sound, because people with ADHD and other mental health issues, autism, etc., have sensory issues. So certain sounds and colors and everything were very affected by that. And so some things are better for us than others. And to be able to tweak that or change it up, like I may get very bored with something and so it will become too familiar. I have to switch it up and change the color or change what it looks like, change the pattern, that kind of stuff. That's just how our brains work. It's a very frustrating way to live because other people are very good about just, okay, yeah, this works for me. Like, and I get notifications and they're up at the right hand column and I ignore them routinely. It's just not a useful tool for me. And I need to be able to use them because they'll remind me, hey, this is coming due, this is coming due. So I'm struggling to figure out what would actually be really useful for me in order that I can use at work that can help me stay focused and know how to use these tools. And nobody is teaching me. Like and the help thing, like we'll go and use the help thing and I do, and of course then I get distracted. I feel like I need a one-on-one tutor to say, hey, wow, this is hacked. Oh, okay. It's not that I'm stupid, it's just that my brain just goes like that, and I get overwhelmed and I just can't process that information anymore. And it's so irritating because I really do liken it to telling somebody who's in a wheelchair that, well, you got to figure out how to get through this door, and the door isn't wide enough for the wheelchair, or there's no ramp. We would be aghast to sit there and be so cruel to tell somebody who's in a wheelchair to figure out how to get through the door and into a building without providing them access ramps. But people that have mental health issues, sensory issues, ADHD, and the like, we're just on our own. And we are told just to try harder, be more focused. We're told to be these things, but we're not given the tools or the avenues. I mean, sometimes they do make accommodations. You can ask for accommodations, but it's a process. And it's like, even just asking for accommodations requires you to have self confidence. So if you have depression or anxiety, that may be a real problem for you to even just speak up at work and say, that you may be afraid that you'll get fired or you'll get put on a watch list or something like that. It's very hard to do that and not kind of normalize the aspect of asking for accommodations. I don't think that a lot of employers want to make that known because that means that a lot of people who may not really have that many problems, but they just want to have these accommodations, take advantage of it. That's the way they look at it. They're like, people are going to take advantage of this. So we don't want to have it known. We don't want to make it normalized. We don't really want to help people because then that weeds out the people who can't stay on topic. They can't stay focused. They can't stay on top of the game. And I think that that's utterly unfair. And yet that's the culture in the United States. And it's very unfortunate when you are born into a culture like that and have to struggle with that. I mean, I hear those messages all the time that, I presented somebody about spoon theory, which you can Google that too. And they just said, oh, that's all bullshit. I mean, that's what they told me. And I'm like, it's hard. It's hard. It's exhausting to have to advocate for yourself day after day after day. And I'm 54. I have my good days and my bad days. And when I have my good days and I feel really spicy and, you know, I will speak up. But I get a lot of pushback at times because I sound bitchy or I sound irritable or I just sound like I'm just not putting up with shit today. And people just don't understand. And it's just understanding what people who have mental health issues and cognitive issues go through day after day after day. And it is very discouraging. It really is, because our system is not designed to really help people. It's designed mostly to weed people out and to say, oh, hey, you can't cut it. You're out of here. Like everybody's saying, oh, you've got to be able to multitask. Well, multitasking has been shown to not be very great. You can multitask a little bit in spurts, but long-term multitasking on a wide scale is really not productive. You're not going to be more productive. They're also showing how a shorter work week is better. I actually wish I could do this more, but I need to break since we've been able to go remote somewhat. See, now everyone's coming back. Like, so we have other support staff. So I'm like kind of a party of one. There's some of my counterparts throughout the agency that never took a day off. Like they never could work from home because of the structure of what their job was. I was fortunate in that I was able to work from home, and I would go in maybe once, twice a week because there was physical stuff that I actually had to do. And now I'm in 3 days a week, 2 days remote. And right now, I feel like that's hard. I mean, it's hard from a standpoint that I feel pressured to be in there more, even though most of the job that I do is on the computer. And again, with the staff, some of the staff have to be there more. I feel like there's a little bit more resentment, but it helps me just because of the distance, that I've been doing. I've been driving 68 miles hard, and so I was doing 3 days going to work, and I'm finding, because last week I did it. I did 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. I worked on site. And Wednesday, I took off and I worked from home. And I think that breakup in that work week. And then I came back to work on Thursday, and then I worked again from home because I only had a part day work on, I usually only I work until 1 on Fridays. So breaking that up helps with the monotony. It helps me kind of like take that break I need. And that's immense. I mean, I have other requirements and other things that I have to do. Like I have to run errands. I've got projects I've got to do. Which I wish I didn't have to do. Like I have to take care of a cat colony. I got to clean out litter boxes and clean cages and do all that other kind of stuff. And I wish I didn't have to do that right now, but I have. And so it takes a lot of energy. I've even gone to try and do like the pickup stuff at Kroger's, because I found that I really don't have the luxury right now to just go into a grocery store and do my grocery shopping, because it just was becoming overwhelming. And even during the pandemic, I really didn't like it because so they would have pickup, you'd put your order in, it was a little clunky. So I've done that a couple of times for my big shipping orders my pickup orders, because it was free for over $35. Well, I routinely spend over $35 to get, to do that. So I thought I would try it because I thought it'll help me keep to a budget. But I'm finding that because the app is crappy. Kroger drives me nuts. But because they used to have, like, you could be able to scan, like, as you go through the store, which Myers you can still do, which really is nice. So as you're going through the store, you scan your items, and then you get to the checkout counter and you scan it in, it brings it up and you pay for it. It's really nice, actually. And but I guess there's bad people and they steal, so they make it hard for everybody else. Of course. Thank you, bad people. so I've tried this pickup thing. The first time it was okay. Went somewhat smoothly. Again, I still had to go into the store because there was a couple of items I forgot. And as I'm going through the store, which is a completely foreign Kroger's, I hadn't been to this particular store, so the layout was different. It was a little bit like, where am I? Where are these things, right? It's a very different Kroger layout. And I'm asking around, I'm saying, well, where is your pickup lanes? And nobody could tell me. Like, I'm going, are you joking me? I'm like, where do I go to do my pickup? And they're like, ooh. I mean, literally, they're just like, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, really? So that was very frustrating to me. I was really annoyed, but the pickup itself went okay. Then I just did one this past week, and I go there, no messages that they are short staffed, running late, nothing. I didn't get any notification. I get there and I stupidly, and this is the problem. I went to go pick up, made my reservation for 6 o'clock, which was way too late for what I did. But I left work because I had to get cat food. And so I had this window of 3 hours that I just had to kill. It was just bad. And so I get there 15 minutes before 6. They said, you're too early. No one said, oh, hey, yeah, your order's going to be late, you know. So I pull into the slot. The guy comes out and he says, we're really short staffed and we don't have your order ready and it's going to be another 30 to 40 minutes. And I'm like, are you joking me? Like, if you had told me early, I mean, maybe that was the crew, but I mean, I'm watching the little app and it's saying your order's in progress. And then it said your order's completed. And then I get there and they're saying it's not completed. Like, that's not helpful. So that was, and then, so I had to go home 20 minutes away. And then the next morning, I had to drive back to the store, another 20 minutes, which is like, 20 miles. And I get there and they're like, oh, well, we can't find half your order. And blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was just such a mess. And I was like, are you joking me? So I'm going to try them one more time. I'm going to try different Kroger's. This is Kroger's I somewhat frequent, but not as much. I'm just like, why? I'm trying to be really kind and understanding. I don't want to get down on workers. I hate it when people say people don't want to work anymore. I hate that. That's such a conservative GOP thing to say. But it is frustrating. I'm like, maybe they have sick employees. I don't know. I mean, yeah, if you agree to work, I think you should show up unless you're dying, unless you're really, really sick. I don't think people should say, oh, I don't feel like working today. I mean, I have that somewhat luxury to be able to go, oh, I really can't come in today, but I can still be, on my computer and still be working and reachable and stuff like that. Because that's the nature of my job. But it's it was just very frustrating. But anyway, I'm getting on to an hour. So it's just basically my overall message is that try to be understanding to people who may have an invisible disability, mentally, cognitively. I mean, we would all say, oh, well, the elderly have cognitive issues. Be patient with them. Try and give them the tools to be able to succeed and to still be functional and productive, if they want to. I mean, we shouldn't just say, oh, you can't do this anymore. I think that there's ways that we can normalize and make it easier for people to get the support that they need instead of just, oh, you got to go jump through all these hoops in order to get this help. And then once you go through all those hoops, you may or may not get it. That's hard. And I just think there's so much stigma still that needs to be overcome. And I don't think that it should be based upon, oh, well, you're privileged, therefore you don't need help, versus, oh, well, you look like you need help. I mean, just help people, I mean, granted, someone who's a millionaire may not need financial help, and they shouldn't be accessing social services if they've got $1 million. I mean, they've got the money. It's the people that are middle class and lower middle class that don't have money, access to resources. They work really hard and they don't get the same kinds of stuff. And I think just being understanding of that, I think more work environments, societal environments need to, I think we need to slow down society a lot more too. And I think we're going way too fast. I'm not, I understand change is inevitable, but when we change, I think that you shouldn't just go, here's change, bam, and just let people just flounder. I feel like a lot of times entities and agencies just kind of like make these changes and then they don't give people the support. And they say, well, we sent you an email out, at the beginning of this. Why didn't you read that? And it's like, it's not handy, especially like when I changed my cell phone system, I'm still trying to do the transition. I had to transition all my apps over. I had to transition how to use the phone. I had to transition different processes, habits, that kind of stuff. It takes time. I had a calendar app that was default on my phone, and I thought that it was the Android Google Calendar, and so that my stuff would sync. Well, it wasn't. And so I had a reminder in my Google Calendar and I assumed wrongly that it would be synced to my phone and I missed an appointment. So I had to go, oh, all right, I got to download this app to do, so it's like little things like that that really make it very hard to transition. And it's just not overnight and it becomes overwhelming. And the only thing I can say is that at age 55, going on 55, I'm expressing my bitchiness about being older. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to slow down. If you're behind me, too bad. I'm not going to sit there and be rushed anymore. I just, no more pushing. I will be there when I'm be there. And I hate being slower because it's something that as you get older, I don't look old. And so I feel old because of the stuff that I've been through, my stress, my mental health stuff. And so I move a lot slower. I'm not proud of that. I'm really not. I have a handicap car thing that I have. I don't think I'm going to be able to use it any longer. I think it was only good until October. But I needed it because of my fatigue that I was experiencing. And I still do experience fatigue. But it was the post-COVID fatigue, and I would just get winded. Like, I just couldn't walk, and there was times when I just like, "I'm using this." Like, and it's horrible because you don't feel like I deserved it or I earn it, and it's like, if I lean into my disability, what is that saying about me? What is that saying I can do? Like, if you lean too hard into your disability and you never challenge yourself, you're never gonna become resilient again. It's that weird balancing act of like, I want to be more resilient. I want to be able to function, be productive. Like, I can take care of myself. Don't worry about me kind of attitude versus leaning in going, I really need help, but you don't want to be helpless. Like, it really is. It's like, I don't want to be helpless. I don't want to be like, but then there's some days when I'm like, yes, when I feel like I really want to be helpless. Like, I'm just so tired. Like, I just can't handle this. And just what it is. But it's embarrassing. There's a lot of shame involved because people are like, what's wrong with you? Like, suck it up. Like, just go and do all this. And it's like, I'm really just, yeah, no, today is not happening. And so, one thing I really, really relish about some of the stuff that I see like in TikTok and other like younger generations is that they're like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. We're going to act our wage. We're going to do this because why are we pushing ourselves and you're not even rewarding us? And that's true. You know, we came from a time which, I agree. I think people should be as resilient and functional as you can. It's like try and overcome your problems when you can. I don't think that you should just be helpless and weak and just go, oh, I can't do anything. But at the same time, doing self-care, saying, today I can't do this. And again, it's a balancing act. It's about compassion. It's about tolerance. It's about understanding. It's about walking in other people's shoes. Just understand that. And when you're developing and designing procedures and workflows and structures and work and life and everything else like that, just be aware of how someone who is on the receiving end may be getting this. And it's something that we just all have to be cognitive of. Anyway, It is literally an hour. So I am going to end this. Thanks for joining me. And thanks for letting me talk for an hour. Thanks. Bye. I'm going to sit there and turn the end stream off. Okay. Great. Thanks. Bye.